Howdy, hi everyone. This is Greg Dixon here for your Writing for Fun adventure. And I've been talking about writing, anything you want for fun. Today it's almost more of a reading for fun thing. I'm going to talk about some things that happened in literature over the centuries, and the place of cliffhangers in writing, and also my guilty pleasure of Outlander, the Outlander series, based on the books by Diana Gabaldon. So first of all, I'm going to talk about, this is streaming on the bottom of the screen here. There's an article I wrote here called writingforfun.online/cliffhangers. And I'll just show you what it looks like here. There's the Writing for Fun website, and this is the article, and there's a bunch there. But I'm gonna just close that off, go back to this view here. You can go and read that at your leisure. Go check it out when you want, but I'm just going to talk about it here. So the first of all is serial publication. What do I mean by that? So in 19th century, many novelists, Charles Dickens, Fyodor Dostoyevsky, Thomas Hardy, and others, publish their books on a weekly basis in a local publications, and sometimes this was the only way they could make money, is they would sell a chapter to a publication and write it. And in some cases, in the case of Fyodor Dostoyevsky, who wrestled with poverty and surviving, and he wrote to survive. So he submitted, he got paid for writing a chapter, and then I understand he sometimes scrambled to get the next chapter written and put out there for the next time the publication went out. I'm assuming a week, but it might have been longer. But anyway, so there's an interesting thing, and I don't know about Charles Dickens or George Elliott or Thomas Hardy, whether they had their novels completely done and they just released a chapter at a time. But I know with Dostoevsky, he did not have it done. He had a title, Crime and Punishment. He probably had a general arc, where he wanted to end up, but maybe he didn't. And maybe he just wanted to explore a theme, and he would write weekly. And the thing is that you can see evidence in Crime and Punishment of this serial publication, because it has, every once in a while, has this cliffhanger, so that you get the end of a chapter or a section, and then some kind of plot twist happens or something happens, and then it ends, right? So this is done fairly deliberately in order to generate anticipation for the next episode, and so that people would come back and continue reading it the next time. And I'm going to say that this is, if you're in the modern version of this, is many television series. If you remember Dallas or any of those things, at the end, sometimes at the end, just going into a commercial break, they would have some kind of little thing, and then they go to the commercial break, and that's sort of to make sure you stay tuned and come back after the commercial break. And at the end of the episode, there would be some kind of thing introduced, and whoa, and then you want it to continue, but it ends there, so you have to come back the next week whenever it's broadcast. Nowadays, with streaming services, you can binge watch all of those things all in one go. And one of my favorite television series was Firefly, Josh Whedon project, and it was canceled. It never actually was finished. The network didn't really understand what it was about and canceled it. And then the fans really lobbied to get it made, and they made a movie called Serenity that finished the story. Anyway, I've got the DVD set, and I probably watched the whole thing maybe 5 or 6 times, and I'll go watch it again soon. And the thing is that in the DVD series is really obvious. Something happens in the plot, and then it fades to black, and you can almost say insert commercial here, and then it comes back up and goes to the next thing. So that leads me to the third part of my conversation here is called Outlander. And Outlander was a television series based on the books by Diana, and her name just fell out of my head, Gabaldon. And I had noticed many of the women in my life were quietly reading these Outlander books. And I think once in a while, I think I asked Anne what it was about, and she kind of explained what it was. And anyway, it was mostly women reading these books. I didn't really see guys reading these books. And anyway, I realized it was on Netflix, so I started watching it, and it became pretty evident right away why women liked it. It was I don't know if you know the story. Basically, it's the main character, Claire Randall, was with her on their honeymoon in Inverness, Scotland, and she came across these circle of rocks and a big rock, and there had been people doing ceremonies, and she anyway went up to visit this thing, touched the rock, and next thing you know, she's 200 years in the past in the Scottish Highlands, and she's just immersed in the middle of sort of some violent altercations between the Highlanders and the British Army, and then the romp starts from there. So I think they've finished filming the 8th season, and I'm now on the 5th season. I started watching these things regularly, and sometimes I go back every couple of months and watch an episode. And there, it's what it is it's I think this is a formula that some of you may, that has been for Diana Gabaldon, has provided something that maybe will keep her going through the rest of her life, is there's a keen interest in history, period times, and then there's this ongoing romance, very complicated thing going across, thousands of miles and 200 years, and under with the most unlikely coincidences, they end up at the heart of all sorts of historical movements. They're involved with the Battle of Independence, really, for Scotland and England in the first couple of chapters, the first season, really. Then they end up in France trying to prevent something that would actually, because Claire was from the future, she knew how history went and knew what would happen for the Highlanders, and all this stuff is kind of complicated. So you get these, they end up meeting, prominent people in the time in France, and they're prominent people in England and in Scotland at the time, and it's all. I have a keen interest in history. Right now, where I'm at, they've ended up in season 4. They've ended up in North Carolina, just prior to the start of the War of Independence. So, like, it's 1884 or something like that, 1883. There's something, or 1772 or something. That's where they are at, and Claire knows that the War of Independence is going to come. And anyway, they've got one foot in the British side, one foot in the revolutionary side, with many of their clansmen who ended up in New World in North Carolina. And I just have to say that I basically binge watched all of season 4, and all that whole idea of a cliffhanger. Every episode ends with a cliffhanger, and it's very compelling. You want to know what happens, so the next thing you know, you're into the next episode, and then the next thing you know, you're into the next season. So one of the things I really think that makes Outlander work is beyond um, the historical context and the grand adventure, and also there's the first thing I got when I watched the first episode is a fair amount of steamy romantic sex. There's also quite a lot of violent, brutal, coerced sex, but there's a lot. Part of the romantic comedy, not romantic adventure thing, is present throughout everything. Through with Jamie's um, relationship with Claire. So it's part of the complication is Claire ends up having a husband back in the regular time, and then ends up marrying uh, Jamie in 200 years ago. So it's very complex. And the other thing that I think that really makes it work well is they're always in these situations, and they're always in a series of dilemmas. They got you know interests on both sides of battles that are coming up. They have things, one of these considerations, if they change the outcome of a battle, what happens to the future, So, and one of the things is the Claire's husband in the modern time hit one of his ancestors in Scotland in the 1700s is basically his ancestor, and if he dies, does the husband not exist in the 200 years later? So anyway, there are all sorts of dilemmas that are moral and ethical and things, and with a dilemma, often there's no clear cut correct choice. Everything has consequences, and it's just and it's beautifully done. Like, if nothing else, you get a sense, no matter what time it is or where you're at, you get a sense of the scenery, of the music, of the mores, of the fashions, the food that they ate. It's really, you get immersed into that time zone, which I really appreciate. So if you're writing something like this, there are a couple of takeaways you can have from this. Is one, pay attention to the cliffhanger. So if you want a homework assignment, go, pay attention to what happens on your favorite television programs. Look for these little cliffhangers between commercial breaks, and especially between episodes. What keeps you coming back? And if you're writing a book, think about this as how can you keep things moving so that you compel your audience or your readers to turn the page and continue on. And it's mostly, this works for fiction too, but if you even pay attention, if you watch science shows on television, or even some more factual based things, is generally there's an effort to keep your curiosity going, to keep you engaged, and not changing the channel. Stay on the same channel. And this back to the writing for fun thing, I think, is if you can find something that you really love to write about and explore, you won't run out of ideas. Like this whole formula with Outlander, where you take historical events and you have a bunch of characters who are engaged and caught up in the movements of these, and there's really no end. There's as I said, with Outlander, there's a season 8 coming up, and I think Diana Gabaldon will just get tired of writing these. Otherwise, there's always going to be something new to explore and write about. The same as with science. I sometimes say, if you take for a botanist or somebody studying natural sciences, you can take a square foot of anywhere in the earth, and there's enough to study in that square foot of earth for somebody to study for their entire lives. So there's a lot of depth. And and I'm experimenting a bit with serial publication. I'm writing a book. It's called All My Relations. It's not It's not a page turner. It's a series of essays really related to exploring all things about how different people live and how we're related. And some of it's kind of interesting coincidences. Some are native views of how all the people and the animals and the plants are all related. And there's I've got some DNA connections that have been interesting, all those things. But what I'm doing is I'm writing basically a chapter or a blog post when inspired. At some point, I'll probably take all that and wrap it up into a book and publish as a print book and an ebook. But for right now, it's an easy way of doing it. There's no time pressure on it, and I can go back and edit it at any time. And I suggest you might consider that too. There are different ways. Let's say you had an adventure series that you're writing. You might do that. You might also deliver it using email, and then there's some other places where you can post things online. I'm using a blog WordPress website for blogging, but there are all sorts of options, and I can help you if you want to do that. And I'm also can help you if you've got a book that you're ready to print, ready to. What I do is I upload to Amazon and Ingram Spark, so it can be distributed. Both the print book and the ebook can just be distributed, and I can help you if you want to publish something serially, and that will also work for some kind of membership program if you're creating a course. Also, that can be created and delivered weekly or monthly or in a serial form too. So that's the whole serial publication thing can be applied to a number of different ways of doing it. And I can be willing to have just a conversation. What do you want to create, and see if I can help you with that. Meanwhile, going back to the fun with reading, go and enjoy your favorite series. Either reading or streaming. It's I don't know. I sure am getting a lot of enjoyment out of binging on Outlander. So anyway, that's all for now, and talk to you later.